Hi everyone! Just a brief note to let you know that we have launched a brand new podcast called Talks at Climind to interview top minds in the field of climate change to discuss on data solutions in climate mitigation, adaptation, and climate finance. Listen to our podcast to hear more from the world's leading experts from academia institute and organizations. From Climind, a team of researchers and entrepreneurs based in Cambridge, Hong Kong, and London, is Talks at Climind, a show about the big ideas about climate change, data science, and innovation. Hi everyone, this is Karen, and welcome to another episode of Talks at Climind. So we're going to bring the insightful conversations with good minds in the field of climate change and data science. So today we have a really special guest with us, Professor Saifur Rahman. He's also the new elected president of IEEE. So Professor Rahman is a really accomplished academician and entrepreneur, and then currently professor of electronic and computer engineering at Virginia Tech. And then he's also the founding director of the Advanced Research Institute at the university. And then the founder and the chairman of the company BEM Controls. We're going to hear more from him about the company later. So in this episode, we will discuss Professor Rahman's journey at IEEE in academia research, the vision of climate change and then power energy, the renewable sector, and then potentially his thoughts on AI topic, as we have a really popular chat on the ChatGPT recently. So I'd love to hear his opinion about that as well. So before we start, we also have a co-host joining us today from Cambridge. So Dr. Lai Lianglun, he's currently the president of Camp China Innovation Network. It's an organization that bridges the gap between academia and business in China and the UK. So converting image and technology into applications. And he did his PhD actually in physics in Cavendish Lab at Cambridge. And then he worked in technologies of converting like low-grade waste heat into electricity that could help us to deal with climate change. So without further ado, I'd like to just send a welcome and then congratulations to Professor Saifur Rahman on your presidency of IEEE. And when we met at COP27 last year at Sharm el-Sheikh, you gave a lecture to the students at the China Pavilion. So would you mind to just start this conversation by tell us a bit more about IEEE, your work as the new presidency in the coming years and the innovations about that?
Very good starting. IEEE is an international organization of engineers, scientists, even physicists. We have many physicists as IEEE members. We are present in 170 plus countries. All countries you can think of, we are present. We have been working on technology since 1884. We'll be 140 years old next year. Our biggest strength, besides publishing 200 journals and hosting 2,000 conferences globally, we are a resource for the students, academics, government employees, industry engineers for relevant knowledge that they can benefit from. So that's the in summary. But in other words, if we go to IEEE as an organization, we have sections in 140 countries. That means we have members, IEEE members, who are leading discussions, projects, education in those countries. So we have a very big footprint which we can use to promote climate change related activities, which is what I have been doing the last several months now. So that's IEEE in a nutshell.
Thank you. I mean, that's a lot of people like me might heard from IEEE from the publications you just mentioned. And it's also new to me and then to, I guess, like my co-host here, to know IEEE has been working on climate change. And then you actually have a page on the work you did where you shared with us earlier. So what's like your personal work, especially at IEEE to climate change, and when it was started, like in the very beginning?
Well, To answer that question, I have to go back to my career at Virginia Tech. I followed in 1992 the Rio Earth Summit, 1992, which was the first time UN came together, brought national leaders, discuss about sustainable development. We cannot keep on using the natural resources in uncontrolled fashion and hope to survive 200 years. It's not going to work. That's 1992. Then I was a professor at Virginia Tech, still I am. I said, what can academics do? What can Virginia Tech do to play a role in this movement? I started at the time called the Center for Energy and the Global Environment, CEAGE. That center was established in 1994. So what, almost 23 and almost 30 years ago. So if you want to know more later on, go to my website, www.ceage.vt.edu. A lot of stuff you'll see there. I have brought in engineers from Africa for training under World Bank sponsorship to my center in Virginia, in Washington, D.C. So they have a place to discuss. Why is it important? Talk about development, sustainable development. That means something to developed world, something different developing world. So this is the gap I'm trying to reduce or shrink by bringing developing country engineers, scientists, policymakers, and developed country specialists at the table so they can discuss issues that are relevant. That was very successful. Still, the center exists. And that, when I became IEEE president, I said, how can I use my knowledge and experience to IEEE's knowledge and advantage and build upon that? This year, in fact, I moved very quickly. But before I became president, I was president-elect last year. And I have started work on climate change. We were at COP26 in Glasgow in 2021. We built on that, went to COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, November last year, and things have been going very well so far.
My question was, you mentioned about Africa, like to bring in the engineer from different regions to work on SDG agendas. So I wonder, like, being to so many different places, like where you navigate the challenges, the difference the world is facing when we talk about climate change, especially I think after COVID, you have to compare like Asia, Europe, perhaps like US. Yeah.
That's a very good point. I was born in Bangladesh, a developing country. I have been to almost 60 countries so far, given lectures. I was in Panama, Vietnam, Singapore, Bangladesh this month already. So my point is, I know how people think in different parts of the world. That is why when I went to Sharm el-Sheikh for COP27, I wrote an article which published, IEEE Spectrum published it recently, about how we can bring together the policymakers from different parts of the world, different economic activities, so they have a say in this thing. We cannot say all solar or no solar, all nuclear or no wind. We cannot say that. So my 6-point proposal has been very widely accepted because of that by industry, academia, policymakers, as well as developing and developed world, because it understands where people come from and what can they work together to make it possible for them to be playing a role in this debate today.
Yeah, so just do one more step based on that. And then like you recently had some travel as well. So like where you see the challenges, especially for countries that without much infrastructure, I'm talking about, for example, in Africa, like the challenge is actually not energy crisis, perhaps it might be energy poverty, or like access to the secured energy. So issues like that, is there any examples that you can share with us through your work at IEEE?
Two examples that we have been working recently in South Africa and Nigeria. Both of them have power shortage. South Africa has serious shortage right now for many other reasons. So what we have said, IEEE has a program called IEEE Smart Village. Under the Smart Village program, we work in local communities, villages. Example, in Nigeria, under ISV, IEEE Smart Village program, our volunteers established a COVID test center using solar energy where they could refrigerate medicine. And that is an example being followed in Uganda as well today. So we want to start from bottom up, go there, see what happens. South Africa also looking seriously in the issue of solar power, remote areas, because if you want to serve the local population all over the country, you cannot overnight build transmission networks, it's impossible. So we are giving solutions locally, and that's going very well. That's an example of how it can be done. Again, also in Bangladesh, small country, densely populated, but not very electrified yet. So government a few years back had a program called Solar Home System. Put 100-watt solar panel on a village rooftop, enough power for light, fan, small TV. So far, they have built more than 5 million such solar homes. And that's an example of, if you start at grassroots, things take off.
Yeah. I think this is a great example, like a solar panel, as like especially what Bill Gates created this word called green premium, the difference of the price to be able to scale a technology that being affordable. I mean, solar panel has been reduced dramatically for the past couple of years. And then I think the cost of technology is a huge part of conservation when we talk about the solution part. So I think the final part of this part of my question, like throughout COP or other international conference discussions you've been to, which you see the biggest like challenges when we talk about scaling the solution, especially you being an entrepreneur yourself to build solutions as well, not just the research side, like the economic cost or innovation or something else?
There's multiple steps to this issue that you raised. First is awareness building. It can be done. Then they'll ask how it can be done. Second question, how it can. Third, they ask who will pay for it. And fourth is how long will it last? A village person asks those set of questions. So first of all, awareness. What is solar energy? Well, they have never seen a solar panel, as an example. So you tell them what it is. Maybe take a sample with you. Then the question is, how can we use it? Solar panels by themselves don't do much. You have to have battery backup, some electronics, and some controls. So that's called charge controller. That has to be done. Then the question is, can I afford it? That's where the government can step in. In Bangladesh case, government put a lot of subsidy to get it going. And then how long will it last? Because they have to believe in this. And solar panels last 25 years, battery lasts maybe 2 years. My point is, you can just give it to them and walk away. That's the challenge. You have to be engaged with them, stay with them, train local villagers to maintain it, and create infrastructure. They can know where to go for buy the battery, how to replace electronics. So all that is infrastructure. Unless we do that right, we cannot sustain.
It sounds like a very practical approach how to really to overcome the challenges, especially in the developing countries for the solar panels. I just wonder, like for other type renewable solutions, would this approach be transferable, or we have to adapt the different models to move things forward?
Well, other three renewable energy sources: wind, hydro, and biomass. Wind is technically more sophisticated because it needs a motor, all this kind of stuff. That's why I talked wind in the beginning. Hydro, globally, small hydro is making inroads in China, India, Vietnam recently, because this is technology which is not very high tech. Just some electric motors are involved in this. So again, that is more, you can put a solar panel lighting system for less than $100. That's it. Maybe $50. But hydro costs you $500. That's the difference. But hydro will serve a whole village, not just one home. So that's why you need cooperatives come together and work with an engineer or technicians of some sort. So, and then biomass is, I have seen in some countries, the animal waste has a lot of methane, and they can collect the methane to cook. And in one case, use methane to run a generator for electricity. But those are more involved. But I would like to see, when talking about development that is sustainable, you have this in your portfolio: solar, wind, biomass, hydro. And again, to be successful, like you're doing a good job, educate the local entrepreneurs. IEEE can give you a big help. We have a lot of engineers on the ground. They can be your ambassadors to get this idea going. So when I became president, this question that Karen asked me was asked of me: what is your mission as president? My mission is to make IEEE more relevant to the working engineer, more relevant. Like if I talk to an engineer in Vietnam, let's say, and give him or her this portfolio: solar, wind, hydro, biomass, they get excited. I have to give them some literature, some hardware, and let them be on their own. So that's how I want to see IEEE become a relevant force in the global community, not just among PhDs like you and me.
Yeah, I can see that you try to transform IEEE become more like a collaborative platform, and to bring the different parties into the same goal, and to push the technology to be more practical, useful for people that will need it. Because you talk about like different approaches, and also how to maybe like different business model, how to bring the corporate in, but not probably not too much about the technical aspect. I wonder, like, is that you think technical problems almost solved, or you still think there might be some like challenge in technical side that need to be addressed?
Well, it is not solved, but idea is fairly old. Solar energy, solar panel idea is 60 years old.
Yeah.
What is the challenge today is making it sustainable. Like in Bangladesh, they asked the question: how long will it last? Can I afford it? To make the solar panel, as Karen said, they become much less expensive now than used to be, but electronics is still a challenge. The battery charger, for example, is an issue. So we had given a grant to a school in Bangladesh, IEEE money, to develop a robust charging, battery charging system, as an example. So those are the challenges. So my focus is, it's not just the lab level technology. It has to be robust, has to be easily available, and understood by the end user. So that's the challenge, to make it robust and longer lasting.
I just want to jump in here as we talk many about solar panel, because one thing I observed and I heard from all the news, the challenge to get development of energy so slow. One of the reasons is whenever like there is a investment into certain technology, it takes. One is the scale of capital needed, and also the speed to develop it compared with other fields is really long. So it's hard to secure a really sustainable flow of capitals to support the innovation or research in this area. And now, I think a lot of pressures from both public and private looking into climate, but it hasn't always been the case. So throughout your decades of working experience, do you think the capital investment is a solution, or assuming we can have enough support from the capital side, do you see it's feasible to actually solve some really challenging issues that we now have, like storage or transmission? Like Europe is building this interconnector between different countries, and I just wonder if you have to compare, there's a research arm, and there's the engineers working on the ground practical to deploy the solution, and also there's a huge topic about the financing part. like how do you see those two will work together from your role like now as the president of IEEE?
When I was at COP27, I moved around the green zone, blue zone, both places. I saw many pavilions about finance, banks, insurance, not many about technology, not many. So this is my challenge. We can talk about climate justice, talk about sustainability, talk about UN forums, which is fine. In fact, I gave a talk at the UN Energy Forum on the 15th of November. I was gone, so I had a video done with my Chinese colleagues. So my point, Karen, is the following: we need money, of course, but today for the COP27 discussion, they have been talking about $100 billion fund, which would help developing world to move forward. But I talked to US government people, European and policymakers. They say we will give money happily, but there must be a good cause that money will be spent. Very important. So that's what I'm telling my colleagues in developing world. They do not just ask for money. Tell them what will you do with the money and give them a roadmap. Then the donor becomes more interested. So that's the gap we need to work on. That's why I put the 6-point solution. One is energy efficiency. What you can do to reduce energy consumption. I just read an article in Economist magazine this morning about Egypt. They have a serious energy shortage. What they have done, they said for air conditioning, temperature must be 25 or higher. Right? In the US is 20 or 21, number one. Number two, they dim the street lights at night, dim the lights, reduce energy, and they do not light up the office buildings at night. So that's an example. It can be done. So if you say, that's my company's job, in fact, if you say, I need technology to make my building smart, then money can be found to make the building smart by automatically changing the light intensity, changing the thermostat setting to 27, in fact, in some cases, and controlling big fans in the building. So that needs some money. But if you can show that roadmap where the money goes, that does two things. One, create opportunity for hardware development and marketing, like this building control systems, and more importantly, opportunities for technicians to do this kind of job. That job doesn't exist today. So that you create opportunity for employment, and businesses will have hardware to design, manufacture, and sell in those markets.
Yeah, and that's actually echoed of one of the very beginning reason we started talking Climind, because we believe like there is a need of optimization in the climate issue. Usually it's not the solution is not there, and then a lot of times it's like resources not being well placed or being used in even like information. So for audience, if not in the climate field, like we have IPCC writing about thousands of pages coming out every year. To just digest that takes, I think, like for not technical readers, it's a huge chunk of readings, like hard to understand, and then even put it into solution. So we're trying to bring in all the topics about the digital ideas and then optimizations even in the field. So just want to pick up your brain on this idea. Do you see the potential and how like we can encourage such optimization, perhaps in adage, or put up broader topics where you see we can use the solutions today we have to do the simulation even before we can imagine how the thing can go into in the real world?
Well, let's do a roadmap. To make this happen, people have to know this is possible. Like smart buildings, I work on that for a long time. But many people don't know this is possible. So if you go to a developing country lab, let's say go to, I don't know, Thailand or India, whatever, China, the students don't know this is a possibility. So I have encouraged my colleagues in China included, Bangladesh, China, India, Thailand, Egypt, so far, where I tell them, when you teach a class, talk about optimizing the energy usage in the building. I say, with my technology that BM controls, I can make a dumb building smart. What do I mean by this? Dumb buildings mean building is sitting there, bringing power to turn the lights on, or air conditioning fan. It only receives power. It's not doing anything more. If you have a rooftop solar on that building roof, you use part of that energy from sunshine to serve part of the building. The building is a passive device. I want to make the building smart. How? By putting some solutions, some hardware, software in the building. It can monitor what the building is doing now. If building is not very well populated, not many people, you don't need to cool so much. But this is not done today. Even in the US, they're all same cooling goes on all the time. So we call it building integrated energy systems. Example. In line building right now, sun is coming and going because of the cloudiness in the sky. If I depend on solar power to run my lights in this building, I'll be in trouble when the sun is partly covered. So if we can predict next 2 minutes when the sun is not going to be shining 100%, I can program my lights to dim a little bit. I don't need as much power. The lights can be dim, AC can be controlled, then I can manage with 50% electricity that will be available because of the cloudiness. That's a smartness. Your building load changes dynamically as the supply changes. That's an education part. I've written papers on that topic, and this is how we can educate the engineers, building managers to accept solar so that they would not be suffering the loss of energy for a few minutes because the clouds are coming in.
Yeah, so how far we've been to, like, regarding the concept being I call it like active manage of the demand and then supply side of that. It's like what's possible today we have in the real world. Can you give a simple description of that?
The technology exists. Awareness is not there yet. First of all, you have to have some technology to dim the lights. It's available in many countries today, but not widely used. You must have some central server which will monitor all the lights and air conditioning thermostats in the building. So it is done in some cases for large buildings, but not that granular yet. So my point is, technology can be adjusted or added with added features to make the application more robust. So it's issue of knowledge sharing. We have the technology, but it's not widely used because people don't know it can be done, how it can be done. So, and also the software is there, but hardware is in some cases country specific because of the way things work. So if you have somebody like you talk about the big picture, you can have your branches in Vietnam or Cambodia or Laos or India, China, whatever, that becomes a global platform to talk about this.
So it seems there will be definitely new system, new hardware, software integrated in the building to make this works, and this will come about the cost which the end user will cares about. I wonder, like at the early stage, would then policymaker, if they have some policies or some industrial-wide act to help out to push like more like smart energy efficient building, would that, if that works, then more specifically, what type of policies that you would imagine would be most efficient to
Right.
promote that? Yeah.
In many countries, if developing or especially, the governments are pulling back from subsidizing power of electricity cost, subsidizing because they cannot afford it anymore.
Yeah.
So the peak demand has to be managed. Right now, they don't know what to do. They turn things off. Off is a hardship for people. You can turn the power off. And so that's what happens today in Egypt, Bangladesh, India, many places called load shedding, South Africa especially today. So rather than shedding the load, meaning turning lights off, you can dim the lights. So governments understand that it costs them a lot of money to build power plants which are serving only the peak hour load, evening load.
Yeah.
So they're using that power station for only 4 hours a day, not 24 hours a day. But if you could avoid those peaks using energy efficiency we just talked about, you don't need that power station.
Yeah.
So they know this is money on the table. So are you going to build a power station with that money or give people technology? They don't need that much power from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on a hot summer day.
Yeah, you also mentioned about because the peak of using electricity is different across the day. Instead of like 2 minutes prediction to dim the light a bit, can you be a more like daily level reschedule of the energy? Like for example, store some energy in the off-peak hour and then use it in the peak hour, that kind of system.
Yeah, that's a longer term issue again that requires battery, which has to be bought. So that is my next solution. If you need 4, 6, 8 hour notice and storage, then you cannot turn the lights off for 6 hours, dim the lights for that long. You need a battery or some kind of storage, for example. Battery today, mainly battery storage. So by using battery storage, you can cover the longer term needs. But if you control the building load as well, you can balance out the short-term fluctuations. That's what is causing a lot of difficulty today.
Thanks.
Also, in my case, in my room right now, sun coming through, I don't need that much light, but the room doesn't have the technology to dim the light as sunshine gets stronger. My company has a solution to do that, sensing the outdoor light conditions and dim the light so that total light is the same, but more of the light is coming from sun than the electric light bulb.
Yeah, I wonder, bring seems irrelevant, but I think it's important, the key questions about the access of all the solutions that we're talking about here. Like recently, we hear a lot of news from OpenAI and Microsoft on the development of the GPT 3.5 and then 4. And having been in the technology field for so long, from my view, we think like climate solution also has a similar challenge of access. It's like being used and controlled by small portion of society, like who's actually not the one most vulnerable, being impacted by climate change. So the question is, where do you see the democracy of perhaps like AI technologies and applications, like, or any angle you see the ability, like now we can have access of new ways of searching information can be relevant to do the capacity building for climate change, helping people to fast search what might be useful and practical adaptation mitigation solutions through, for example, like ChatGPT, or like your general views on this innovation coming out.
Well, if ChatGPT can be done in Chinese or Indian language or Bangladesh language or Vietnamese language, it makes a big difference. Tell you why. At the beginning today, we talked about how technology penetrates the society. I said awareness, how it works, can I afford it, and how long will it last? That is being answered now by sending somebody to the village and village school maybe. If we could give ChatGPT to school teacher, she'll ask these questions and get answers without me or you going there. Then they get more convinced this is a possibility. Then the school kids figure out a way to put things together. That's real democracy, the real revolution. You empower them so they don't need you and me to be sitting with them and explaining things. ChatGPT can do it for them. But the borderline is there has to be in those languages so the school teachers can figure it out. One added issue to that question, IEEE has what is called a website called tryengineering.org, I think. Try engineering. Put in Google, see it. That has content for school teachers, Try Engineering, about many things we're talking about now, not so much details. So I gave a talk in COP27, the group called International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, out of Abu Dhabi. They have a program called Energy Transition Education Network, ETEN. And they're giving content to teachers in Africa so they can teach our solar energy and all that. I told them we have Try Engineering, which has much content about this. They loved it, all free for sure. Recently, I was in India in December, gave a talk, and once they heard so powerful, they put together a team to make that translation in Indian language, Marathi language. Now the school teacher can see this Try Engineering in their own language. So Chat GPT can be convinced to put their GPT in different languages. Maybe we should tell them that. They'll be happy to do this. So there's a more global audience they can serve.
That is one of my beliefs. I think one of the most direct usage is really the reverse way of having information to be delivered to the user through language. Like humans are good at ask questions in plain language, but not everyone can do programming. So if we can really do the local language to be the bridge of the materials we have out there, like organizations like IEEE, that will be a huge change for how we teach about climate and other topics.
Yeah. I think that would be very cool because there are so much information and knowledge in the web in the internet, but mostly not just English. In English, there's many other languages have much knowledge that actually we can capture, and then directly can be applied to people they are interested in. Them that would to accelerate this process. That we don't need any new infrastructure, but we can use a great tool, can adapt it, and then rapid implementation. And I think that's a very good idea to actually, if we can have a collaborate force to make this happen. Hopefully IEEE can, I don't know, any ongoing initiative to push this.
What we have done for IEEE, when I gave this talk in Abu Dhabi last July about Try Engineering, they said, can we have Arabic version, Swahili version in Africa? I said, why not? So the solution that we have come up with, let them go to Google and translate in their language. It's not very clean, but it's a starting point. Then our local section leaders can come in and clean this up. Once it is done, we'll give them access to backend of this server, backend. Then this version will be uploaded in the backend. Then you go Try Engineering in Chinese or Vietnamese and Swahili. And then click that button and they see everything is in that language, ready to go. So that's my next challenge. But things are moving. In India, they've done in one language, exactly local IEEE volunteers got together and put that thing in place.
Well, we're looking forward to the process on that, progress on that. What happened in the past week is like people saying nothing happened in decades, but in a week, like decades happen. This is like what really we've been observing about amazing things happening, coming out on top of the GPT innovations. And like this can definitely leverage like all the innovations and the work like organization has been done, like IEEE, I think, to get that capacity knowledge to access by everyone, which I think is the ultimate goal of the conference, like COP. We have so many conferences today about climate change, but it really come to implementation. I think like there's a huge gap, like how to transfer people coming from different backgrounds to be able to work on the same manner. Just like final questions. I think a lot of our audience will be interested in their own career, like as someone like who worked in decades in academia, and then like made your way to one of the most important organizations in engineering, like IEEE, and the builder company. What kind of advice would you give like people now started like their new career, or perhaps be interested in climate, like to build technologies and all that?
What I would advise them is keep your knowledge base as broad as you can. Things change very quickly, number one. For example, what's happening in Nigeria should not be managed by Nigeria only. They should know what's happening in surrounding countries, number one. Because of internet, because of things like Chat GPT, because of IEEE, now there are opportunities for them to engage. For that reason, I'd advise young engineers, especially physicists, computer scientist people, to be engaged with IEEE. Student membership dues like $7, almost nothing. It's easy to do. Yeah, when you're a student. Could be a PhD student also, same things, cost the same. So engage, because IEEE has a lot of free resources that you can be part of. For example, we have launched what is called IEEE Climate Change Collection, a library of articles, papers on climate change. Many of those are free to the whole world. If you're a member, you can see it, but if you're not a member, you can still see part of it. So one question people ask me, give me some reading materials. I tell them where I go. There's so much going on now. A lot of stuff are not right, not true. People say things. If it shows up on the internet, doesn't mean it's right, it's correct. That is exactly why we chose to launch that library called Climate Change Collection. If you go to the climate change website, you'll see it. So that we have content there which are vetted, written by experts, and these are backed up by data and references. So that would be my advice. Keep your knowledge broad. Be part of IEEE. You can then access other engineers, senior members of the society. And finally, have the curiosity not to stop. Things will change, things will happen. And be willing to try new things. As a young person, you are more flexible to try new things. Somebody who is 50 years old cannot do that because of other reasons. So be flexible, be open to new ideas, and be a member of some network, could be IEEE, could be something else, and do work in a collaborative fashion, not just by yourself, so that you can benefit from your colleagues, your friends' ideas, as well as your own idea. Those would be my initial reaction to your question, Karen.
Wonderful. And final one, what would be your suggestions, like Dr. like walking from your PhDs couple of years in UK, like now become I would say like community engineer and also an engineer yourself.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things going on in climate area and also energy, especially energy sector. That, for example, in UK, the government and also university put out a new Faraday scheme to push the battery technology and also try to have the local network system to help to educate many engineers, which then not just help the enterprise, but also to build a network that could pass on the knowledge and experience. And that's why I think, as Professor Rahman suggests, like joining an organization like IEEE and be knowledge to absorb as knowledge as possible, that I think is good, because things move very quickly. And that's why I think for me is to join a conversation like this and also get to know people really help to build what I try to do.
Thank you both, and I would look forward to see you in UK or China someday. Thank you so much for listening to today's talks at Climind. Stay tuned for more insight into how climate data solutions will be the game changer in climate change mitigation adaptation. We will invite more leading experts to come to share their top minds. Subscribe to our podcast on Loom, Spotify, or on YouTube channel. For audience in China, you can also find our shows on Xiaoyuzhou. You can also reach out to us on website or follow us on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. See you next time.